All right, y'all, good morning. We're back. Excuse me. Today I'm going to try to make the most of this day and record as much as I can. Sent up a prayer, going to let God lead me in what He wants me to cover. And I was kind of looking through or rewatching, because that's what I'm doing now, the videos that I post so I can kind of remember what points I want to hit on, what, assertions I may have made, where I want to provide proof for that, and all the things. Went back to pull up this source that we looked in. And I'm just going to start. I've taken a lot of screenshots of this, but I really am going to start, writing down a lot of the names mentioned, because there are a lot of names mentioned. So that I can start looking into a lot of the history with this stuff. But, maybe some people aren't aware of like what makes Carl Linnaeus a bad person. And I can't speak to the person that he was. And this has been my reality. I have, and let me just say, how can I say this? Cause I don't want to say I love all people, cause I don't know y'all, but like, my heart is to love people, to love everyone, you know what I mean? And I don't care what race you are or who you are. But our differences and our experiences are what they are. And I grew up actually pretty unawares of racial differences and issues in my personal life until I experienced them firsthand, starting in high school. And even here recently, like kind of being displaced and having to find or take advantage of the only few housing options presented to me, either with colleagues or people that I found who are of, a different race than myself, a different ethnicity than myself, descendants of a lot of these people we're discussing. And boy, let me tell you, and that's going to have to be a story time for another day, living with these people, working with these people has been interesting, to say the least. Traumatizing, to say the least. And so, yeah, it's a lot. Heck, even in my medical anthropology course, I would never forget my professor saying, well, me being racist doesn't really affect you. So, And I was just like, This was like during a discussion in class too, like craziness. She was Italian, I believe. And I'm like, this is really how they think. This is really the mindset. And the thing is, unfortunately, it does. Because, see, you're a part of a group of people who tend to yield power to the level of being able to use your prejudices and your discriminatory views to actually cause harm or prevent many things. Especially because, even in this dynamic, you're the instructor, you're the professor, I'm the student. And so that's not a very accurate perspective to have, but I understand why you would say something like that to protect, because what I just stated in front of all these students made you uncomfortable, and to kind of protect your viewpoints and beliefs, and to maybe to also even challenge and push back or whatever. Because, our, the image for that particular course, maybe I can pull that up. Let me show you. No, it's not going to allow me to show you guys the dashboard for that because, it's a past course. So anyway, the image of that particular course, I may have screenshot it somewhere, was a graffitied wall. So an urban area in the United States where we know majority of the population tends to be Black and brown people, with a Caucasian woman painted on the wall with a gas mask on her face. Excuse me. And then walking by this brick wall with this graffitied art is another Caucasian woman just walking, right? A picture says 1,000 words. And what that communicated to me is, and mind you, this is a medical anthropology course. So a lot of the history that we're studying regarding sickness, disease, illness, ultimate, proximate causes, all the things, right? Every single article we're going in through this textbook, dozens of them, are regarding Black people, essentially, and Hispanics as well, in other parts of the world, and the Americas. And so for that to be what we are studying, and about really all the ways that these people were exposed to, because of Europeans in many cases, illness and sickness, your image, your choice of imagery for the course is basically communicating that the subject that we need to protect, the individual, the people that need to be protected, are white women. That's what that's communicating. Ridiculous. So anyway, and disrespectful. But anyway, so yeah, she felt like, hey, my racism, how I feel, isn't doing anything to you. So, and it's like, enough of y'all think that way. That is, as we've seen, extremely dangerous. And you know better. Respectfully, you know better. Anyway, y'all, let me not get started. It's too early. All right. Horticultural traffic. The way that they just use these terms to try to not just say what it is. Oh boy. All right. And that's what I found. That is truly what I have found in my collegiate journey, is that all these institutions have been erected and many of these programs in place to really just find a way for these people in the dominant society to just feel more comfortable and to control how other people engage with what has happened and to justify it and to make it okay, so that eventually the textbooks can be changed and altered again to completely wipe away what has happened. And it's through the strategic use of language. It's always been that way. The ability to name, rename, redefine people, places, things, actions, beliefs, to the point that you don't even suspect foul play, you know? But anywho, I thought to, like I mentioned, start writing down some of the names of the people in this work that are mentioned. Let me finish my original point why I even brought up like the people that I've lived with and the experiences that I have briefly, was to make the point in saying what I've learned, this is my experience, is that some of the nicest people, some of the most hospitable and giving people, quote unquote, good people. I don't believe in good people. I think people are people, complex human beings, and they have the ability to make decisions that can be good or bad. I mean, there might be some people whose heart really is evil, you know, but I think everyone is capable of that. Like those spirits and that sort of phenomenon doesn't discriminate. It's more prevalent in certain kinds of people, certain groups of people, but I don't think it discriminates. And so, yeah, through those experiences and prior to me picking up and leaving the day of after receiving a message from someone I was staying with that she intended to send to someone else about me, all the while being very kind and smiling in my face, and then come to find out, you know, her husband happened to be the grandchild of a Confederate and the member of a hate group. And I'm like, what the world is going on? Lord, get me out of here, because what is happening? What is happening? My goodness. You know, you'll learn that, and when you watch a lot of these interviews with people whose parents and husbands and sons and themselves have done horrific things to people that they still don't believe are equal or human, they'll tell you, oh, but they're just such nice people. I mean, I know them to be such nice, wonderful people, you know? Yeah, that doesn't take away from the evil and the wrong. And so, yeah, like I can't speak to these people's character in the context of their relationships and lives, but I can speak to the legacy that they left behind and the impact that their work has had and the things that they've done to the people they exploited, to the people that they harmed. And so with that, Linnaeus, right? Some people may not understand what exactly is harmful about his work. And well, the thing is, it was his work right here that actually laid the groundwork of the racist systems that we see today. His work to write about, to bullcrap about the so-called inferiority of the darker races of people when compared to the lighter races of people. And I've mentioned Dr. Joy Degruys in times past. Shout out to this channel. I don't, fair use. I think it's so hard to find this particular talk, but this is the full thing. It's like an hour and a half. She's done a lot of great work regarding post-traumatic slave disorder. Excuse me. And here she briefly kind of talks about Linnaeus. So I wanted to play this. Oh, hold on.
And whenever we are in a process of trying to legitimize things, it's so amazing. People always say this to me, even black people, when they hear about post-traumatic, because it's not correct unless you can count it and measure it, right? Science is the final. It is the number one. If you can say it's scientific, right, then you basically trump everything else, right? Science determines reality. So if we can scientifically assert a thing to be true, then in fact it is true, because it's scientifically proven. It's a scientific fact. Matter of fact, that's what people will tell you when you try to say to them, I don't know if I agree with you. It's scientific. It's a scientific fact, what I'm saying here, right? Which somehow makes it what? True.
Very true, yeah.
And it's also in a book. Now let's do the math. It's in a book, and it's scientifically proven. Did anybody here realize that recently we lost a planet? Anybody know what planet we lost? How you lose a planet? I became fond of the little picture with we lost a planet. We didn't lose a planet. You know what it means? Science was wrong. Now, have they ever said, we were wrong about that planet thing? No. It's called a paradigm shift. So let's go to science. And I think it's important that we do. So we go to someone named Carl von Linnaeus. Now, Carl von Linnaeus becomes an important character in this whole conspiracy of silence and legitimacy and removing the dissonance. Carl von Linnaeus developed a system based on a criterion of skin color and laid the basis for 19th century racial classification. Linnaeus properly began the science of anthropology. So here we have the father of anthropology. Although color classification of races dated back to the ancient Egyptians, anthropologists refer to Linnaeus' Systema Naturae of 1735 as the first modern study of man. While Linnaeus advanced classification with his use of a color criterion, he also fixed on his 4 families of man certain moral and intellectual peculiarities that continued into the 19th century anthropological vocabulary. He described Homo Americanus. Who might that be? That would be Native American.
Yes, some of them, not all of them.
American Indians. Homo Americanus. And what did he say about them? He said they were reddish, choleric, obstinate, contented, and regulated by custom. Homo Europaeus, as white, fickle, sanguine, blue-eyed, gentle, and governed by laws. Homo Asiaticus, that'd be Asians, as sallow, grave, dignified, avaricious, and ruled by opinions. And Homo Afer, as black, phlegmatic, cunning, lazy, lustful, careless, and governed by caprice. These insights into what Linnaeus defined as racial character, personality traits, behavior, intelligence, language, and a host of other related categories were transmitted into subsequent attempts at a science of classification and became more fixed than the races themselves. Not a shred of science here. But it is in a book. And it's touted as science. And what's more important, you know, my students, I teach graduate students in social work. And they'll say, but Dr. Leary, my God, we're looking at 1707 to 1778. We are, right? After all. But do you not hear these same attributions today? You know those blacks, they're lazy, you know, all the exact same, am I telling the truth? In your newspapers, in your accounts of them, do you not hear these very same things? So does it matter that it started in 1707 and 1778 and has no scientific merit? That's multi-generational, is it not? It's being passed along. Part of the swallowing into the social gullet. Those are the beliefs, you see. So it doesn't matter whether it's true or not. And thank you, Carl von Linnaeus. Again, he's removing the cognitive what? Don't they deserve to be treated the way we treat them? Have we not just justified what we've done? After all, I just told you this is who they are. We're not wrong. We're just trying to keep the domestic tranquility. Makes sense. I'm having a clicker thing. There we go. Johann Friedrich Blumenbach. Just look.
She goes on to say,
and anybody here?
Let me see.
The ugly stuff that we've never dealt with. We still want to say they deserved it, so no one has to feel bad about all of those little babies dying, ignoring the ravages of Africa and killing young black males in urban cities, and disproportionate imprisonment and disproportionate disparities in health. Oh, it must be their fault. How do you reconcile it? You see, rather than deal with it, we just continue to try to justify the behavior. Thomas Jefferson, you all know him? Yes, he's one of my favorite people, actually. I close out my book with a soliloquy from Thomas Jefferson. I actually end my book with it. Because Thomas Jefferson made a statement. Here's a man highly regarded in the United States. I mean, there are more statues of him than probably anybody. And he made a statement towards the end of his life. He says, indeed, I tremble for my country when I consider that God is just and that his justice cannot sleep forever. You see, it haunted him to his grave. Because Thomas Jefferson knew. He knew what would happen. Matter of fact, he predicted exactly what we're dealing with today, what happened between people of African descent and those of European descent. Predicted it. He was a bright man. How do you reconcile behaving in such a barbaric way? Well, let's see what he said. He said, black...
So I'm going to stop right here because I do want to say a few things. You already know how it goes. I'm going to interject my sentiments and commentary. So, gosh, I think, again, about the black, right, or darker complected natives who, through works like Linnaeus and others, were completely erased, right? Categorized the wrong way, completely erased. Oh gosh, it just disregarded. It's crazy to think about, even under this shadow of all things African, so to speak. And it's never been something that I've refuted or denied in regards to, you know, Africans being brought over, again, 3 to 4% making it actually to North America in particular. So a very small percentage, majority of them going to South America, the Caribbean, some in Central. But again, that seems to be the whole understanding or categorization of people who are more complex than that. And of course, that's never really spoken to or about, because really the goal here is to lighten or whiten, you know, populations and groups of people to achieve their end. But also, I think later on in this, she goes to discuss it. I'll maybe try to find that. And she shows images of the tools that they used and things. And I also, you know, we kind of touched on that a bit in my cultural anthropology course. The way that they tortured thousands of children and infants and men and women and the elderly. Linnaeus and his people and his contemporaries, right? These plant hunters and all these folks of the golden age and what have you. And it has gone on to continue, and then we'll read about that in Harriet Washington's work, you know, medical apartheid. But I mean, the suffering that they put these people through as a means and in an effort to prove their inferiority, mentally, physically, emotionally, even spiritually, on every level. And honestly, they couldn't. They weren't successful in that. But like she stated, because it was able to be enshrined as this sort of science and logged in a book, then there must be truth and validity to it. And what makes it even more dangerous is because we've been able to appreciate this sort of classification, categorization, organizing of these terms and knowledge, especially to explain the botanical world. Again, plants and human conflict, as we've read with Pechersky's work, go hand in hand, right? So here are these men who are able to create this system that's so neat and tidy for us, and it's accepted the world over and ingrained for generations and generations for so long that it's just like this wonderful thing. And so, this goodness came from these people who've also done horrific things. And so that must overshadow and negate the bad that they've done, right? I mean, look at what they left us. I mean, how amazing. Without them, we wouldn't even be able to know the name of plants. Like, that's some of the thought processes that people have, as if without them, there would be no natural world. There would be no knowledge of the natural world. And it would just be a mess. Oh, it would just be so disjointed and disorganized and just horrible. And I'm sorry, you can't help but be facetious with some of the stuff, because it's just like, yo, come on. Come on. Y'all go check this out. I'm not going to play the whole thing. Check this video out. Again, it's Terrence Carney, I guess his channel. But yeah, so I just kind of wanted to speak to that briefly. And there are a lot of sites and resources that acknowledge that, that acknowledge that. His, involvement with kind of laying the foundation of the racial supremacist system and viewpoints and beliefs that would surface, a few centuries ago and permeate everything that we know and stain it, when it comes to the botanical world. And it just is something that's accepted. It just is what it is. And even when you think about the American Herbalist Guild, which again, I'm an associate member of, that tends to be the only organization right now that can kind of vet and again, I have my issues with that, and I have a right to have issues with that. But there is no governing body that can license, right, an herbalist or a botanist or what have you. And so that's really the only way to sort of be vetted and registered. Excuse me. Not that that's even necessary, to practice, but you do want to ensure that you are being peer reviewed in some way and holding yourself to a certain standard. And I spoke about all that in another video. But the thing is, like, they are also perpetuating all of this stuff. The APA, United Plant Savers, all the things, they're perpetuating all of this stuff. They're carrying on these legacies. And they even use it as the measuring stick and barometer by which you're considered valid or an expert or not. And I'm just kind of like, who are you to do that? Who are y'all to do that? And not enough people are going, who are y'all to do that? No. I'm over it. I am. All right, y'all. We're going to end it right there. Time is running out. I was able to pull up. Yeah, so that's what I was saying. Excuse me. Going back into this work and finding all these names so that I can start pulling up and saving and reading their journals and their descriptions of the peoples and the places. And this one in particular is Mark Cadsby. Very interesting stuffs. And a lot of it was, of course, the coast. So, the southern states, Carolina, Florida. And so it's got to delve into all of this at some point. But yeah, check out her work. Please do. This was a phenomenal, I guess, lecture or talk that she did. And then also with Vault Empires, her interview with Brandy was really good too. All of our people need to be aware of this stuff because it is through education, right, that they are able really to perpetuate so much of this. And I really like Woodson's work. And we're going to get into that, the miseducation of the Negro, because he actually talks about how it's by design that the way blacks would, or I'm just going to use that term because that's often what's been used in that time, the way that quote unquote blacks, foundational black Americans would be educated, they would, seek to have you for years, for all of your collegiate journey, whether it's through a master's or doctorate or what have you, just constantly faced with grappling. Like Toni Morrison said, and we kind of quoted her in another video, the very serious function of racism is to distract you. It's to keep you explaining over and over again your reason for being. It's to keep you from doing your work. And that's kind of what Woodson talks about, is that we think that being able to go into these universities and into these spaces and finally have a seat at the quote unquote table is how we bring about change. And maybe to a degree it is, but ultimately, no, it's really just to keep you there doing a study on this, a study on that, a case study review on this review. It's just to keep you grappling with and measuring how you grapple with all of this information without really doing anything. And it's by design, So anyway, y'all like, comment, subscribe, share. Again, if this channel is not for you, keep it pushing, and y'all be blessed.